All right, let's just jump right in. For more than 20 years, the International Space Station has been this incredible symbol of human cooperation, just silently circling about 400 kilometers above all of us. But its time is coming to an end, and its final act, well, it's going to be a fiery one, and for a really, really good reason.
You heard that correctly. The plan, the official plan, is to crash this marvel of engineering, a machine literally the size of a football field, straight into the Pacific Ocean. Now, I know that sounds like a total disaster, right? But it's actually the exact opposite. This isn't some accident. This is the grand finale, planned down to the last detail. So the real question is, why is deliberately crashing it into the ocean the only responsible way to retire this incredible icon?
To get why, you kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of NASA and all its partners. You see, as the station gets older, they were faced with four, and really only four, very, very different paths for what to do with it.
So here are the options they had on the table. First, could we somehow bring it home and turn it into a museum piece for everyone to see? Second, what if we just pushed it farther away from Earth into what's called a graveyard orbit? Third, and this is a scary one, what if we just let it fall back on its own? And finally, option 4, that guided crash we're talking about. Let's dig in and see why the first three were just not going to work.
Okay, this is where it gets super interesting. We're going to look at the options that, on paper, they sound pretty good. Some of them even sound a bit romantic, but they all completely fall apart when you hit them with the cold, hard facts of physics and logistics.
Let's start with the one that really tugs at the heartstrings, right? The idea of taking the ISS apart, piece by piece, and bringing those modules back down to Earth. Imagine seeing them in a museum, a permanent tribute to one of our greatest achievements. It sounds perfect, doesn't it? Almost poetic. Well, the reality is, it's a complete logistical nightmare. I mean, just think about what it took to build it in the first place. We're talking almost 30 different flights, over 100 spacewalks, just piecing it together up there. To do all of that in reverse would be just as hard and insanely expensive. But here's the real kicker, the absolute deal breaker. The space shuttle was the only vehicle we had that could carry those huge modules, and it's retired. There is literally no spaceship that exists today that could bring the big pieces home. So, option 1 is out.
Okay, so option 1's a no-go. What about option 2? If we can't bring it down, hey, why not just push it up and out of the way? We actually do this with old satellites. We boost them into a super high, stable orbit, a graveyard orbit, where they can just float harmlessly for hundreds of years. Seems like a nice, clean solution.
But again, and you're going to see this as a theme, the ISS isn't just any satellite. It is massive. Pushing something that big, that far, would take a mind-boggling amount of power. And more importantly, it's a huge safety problem. You couldn't have the crew on board for that kind of move. And our current spacecraft that ferry astronauts and supplies, they can't even get that high. But maybe the biggest reason of all, a higher orbit would basically turn the station into this giant, uncontrollable target for all the space junk up there. Turning our beautiful symbol of cooperation into a massive debris hazard? No way. No one's taking that risk. Which brings us to option 3. And honestly, this one is it's terrifying. What if we just did nothing? Just let go of the controls, let gravity take over, and just let the ISS fall back to Earth wherever it wants. I don't think I can say it any better than the experts themselves, who basically said this. This isn't a plan. It's a recipe for absolute disaster. Sure, a lot of it would burn up on re-entry, but huge, heavy pieces would definitely make it all the way to the ground. And with zero control over where they land, the risk to people and property is it's unthinkable. So this one gets a very loud, very firm no. So let's just quickly run that back. Bringing it home to a museum? Logistically impossible. Pushing it farther out into space? Way too dangerous. And just letting it fall? You've got to be kidding me. Completely dangerously irresponsible. Every single one of these first 3 options had a fatal flaw that took it right off the table. And so when you take all of those other ideas away, the path forward becomes crystal clear. It shows you how, by just eliminating what wouldn't work, we get to the only choice that puts safety and responsibility first. And that's why the winner, the official plan, is a guided, controlled crash.
It's not the romantic ending we might have dreamed up, but it's the right one. It's the one that engineering and safety demand. It's not a failure, it's a solution.
So how are they going to pull this off? It's actually a super clever two-step dance. First, the mission controllers are just going to let go a little. They'll let the station's orbit naturally get lower and lower, letting gravity do most of the initial work. And then, for the grand finale, a special spacecraft, like a space tugboat, will fire up its engines and give the station one final, perfectly aimed push, steering it exactly where it needs to go.
And where is it headed? Well, its final destination is this incredible spot on our planet called Point Nemo. It's literally the furthest you can get from any piece of land. It's known as the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. Basically, it's a spacecraft cemetery. This fiery ending isn't some tragedy. It's the final responsible act in an amazing story of exploration, a planned, dignified end to an unbelievable journey.
So, as we get ready to say goodbye to the ISS, it really leaves us all with this one massive question. For decades, this station was the shining example of what we could all do when nations decided to work together. With its chapter closing, what's next? What will be the next great project to unite us all in the spirit of exploration? That's the thought I really want to leave you with.